messing with memories, dealing with grief, and graduation. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's review of Wistoria Wand and Sword Season 2, Episode 5. Yo, what's up? Welcome back. Welcome if you're new. My name is Mark, and today, as I said, we're checking out Wistoria Wand and Sword. We're talking about the brand new episode. If you want to see my reaction, you can check it out on Patreon for free. Link in the description down below and the pinned comment. And while you're down there, make sure you like and subscribe, hype the video on YouTube mobile app. And let's talk about this episode because, bro, I took so many notes. Like, so many, bro. You have no idea. And the reaction itself, close to 50 minutes long, basically an hour. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about, so let's just talk about it. So, the episode starts out with people running around. This shows 3 years prior. And Will is sitting there depressed on a bench in the rain because apparently Elfie made the rain. How that works, I don't know. But because I thought she was ice. But I mean, technically ice is water and all that, but like, I don't know. Anyways, he's like depressed because she's doing all that, but he can't even touch water. Really can't like do a single drop of water magic or anything like that. And that's when Rusty is like, hey, you're gonna get wet. And he covers him with an umbrella because he made an umbrella. And that's when Rosty's like, yo, I want to be an artificer. And my name is Rusty. I want to be your friend, Will. And they're friends now from that day on. And then we fast forward to the present because Will is currently experiencing this memory. And we see in the Headmistress Cauldron's like office thing that Will is there laying on a magic like circle type thing. And Finn comments how Headmistress Cauldron mastered the Mage Queen's legacy, which that's pretty cool. The Mage Queen apparently left some kind of like magical legacy, whether that's like a spell or something, I'm not sure, but that is pretty cool to see. But also, I'm not sure how I feel about that, especially once we get to the next part where she says that she is editing Will's memories. Yeah, and says that his beloved Sleeping Beauty, quote unquote, remains rocking in a cradle of memories. That's poetic, but I have no idea what the fuck that means. Cause like, the problem is that is his Sleeping Beauty Rusty? Because that's the memory that we see of him having with Rusty. The funny thing is, we see no memories of him with Elfaria. So my only takeaway is that the memories are the Sleeping Beauty is Rusty, which I mean, fair enough. Speaking of Rusty, I went on a tangent in a reaction if you want to find out what my thoughts are on him, but I'm not going to do that here again. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about dealing with his memories, and the thing is, I was convinced at the beginning of the reaction, like when we first learned about this, that they were like wiping his memories of what happened. But then I started thinking, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, because that would require wiping everyone else's memories of seeing what he did. But then I thought later on, oh, they're going to wipe his memories of his abilities, of using the powers. But then I don't know how that didn't happen either, apparently, because he remembers that he used the powers later on. And I think I wrote that down about talking about that later on, but for now, doesn't matter. The point is, I don't know what the fuck she edited for his memories. I don't know if we're supposed to know for sure. And finally, I had the, hold on. I'll save, as you know, I'll talk about it now, because this is later on in the episode, but since I'm already talking about this, might as well. I was convinced later on that with all the Rusty memories, that like she was like erasing his memories of Rusty. And I, no joke, said in the reaction that if Will doesn't remember Rusty and they like wipe his memories of Rusty, I'll drop the show. Legitimately, I was legitimately ready to drop the show if they make Will forget about Rusty, because that'd be completely bullshit if they did. But now, apparently he remembers Rusty, but what I don't know actually is, did they just erase the fact that Rusty died and just had him move away technically, or because I don't know what they edited. They didn't say. None of what they edited is so far has been what I thought it was, so I don't know. So I'm gonna wait to see and hope that it didn't erase anything involving Rusty, because I like Rusty, man. But anyways, putting that aside for now, we're gonna talk about, where's the next point? Fast forward to a different different place. Workner survived, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I spent a solid 3 or 4 minutes trying to figure out what the fuck his name was. I legitimately was like, "What's his name?" Because I remember Ed Clarity, but I didn't remember Workner's name, and like I legitimately just spent 3 or 4 minutes trying to figure it out until they told me, and I was like, "Oh, that's his name." I even made a joke about how maybe they edited my memories of him, but no, I still have no idea how Workner survived. I don't know if that's like a power that someone placed on him. Is Workner somehow like immortal, or like I have no idea. We also get to see Eliza, and Clarity fight over Workner, because apparently Workner was Eliza's first love, which is kind of sweet. And they fight like a cat and dog, which is funny. And so you can tell by how they're acting that they're like really like that they are friends. They're like more than just teaching like coworkers. They're like friends, which is cool. And then the next part to talk about this time though, I did write down like where stuff is. Like I wrote down like 1, 2, 3, 4 for talking points, so I can remember which order to talk about stuff in. But the problem is I wrote so much I have to find the numbers. Okay, the fourth talking point we don't want to talk about returns back to into a classroom where the student body is, and someone walks in excited that Workner survived and that the book learner will survive as well. But then, as they're all happy, Julius is like, he scoffs and he calls everyone naive about how he's spiteful, and then he says like how it's convenient how they're all making an about face. But then that's when I paused and was like, maybe the student body is just learning from their mistakes, with how they treated Will. Because like, I mean, yeah, it sucks. Obviously, they shouldn't have treated him like shit in the first place. Obviously. But we can't change the past. What we can do, though, is look towards the future. And it does seem like they genuinely are, like, learning from their mistakes. Again, they shouldn't have done it in the first place, but, like, at this point, it just is what it is. So that's that. But I am glad that they are learning from their mistakes. And, but then, before he can, like, continue going on a tangent, Wignall comes in, and he's like, deep down, Julius, you actually care, that you're actually happy that he helped you survive. And Julius scoffs, but then Wignall is like, you haven't forgotten a mage's noblesse oblige. Now, I don't know what that means in this context, but the only other time I've heard the word noblesse is from a manhwa called Noblesse. There's also an anime for it, but the anime is actually dog shit. Like, I do not watch the anime. If you want to read a really good story with great art, early on, it's not the best, but like, it gets better. 500 chapters, close to, and like really good story and everything. Highly recommend reading Noblesse. You can find it in a lot of places, but like, it's really good. Don't watch the anime. The anime, it ruined it. Just don't watch it. Anyways, putting that aside, then we learn, thanks to what's his name? Where am I? Hold on. Oh, we learn because they're going over the at that tower with Eren. Iris is going over the damages. 3,000 were killed or wounded in that attack, in the Terminalia attack. Which, damn, that's a lot of people, bro. Granted, it's not all students, but it's a lot of students, teachers, high mages. Like, it's people died. More people would have died if it wasn't for Will. But that's besides the point. And then, I have one thing I wanted to ask. I asked this question in the reaction, and I thought, oh, I'll write this down and ask it here. Is Eren a dwarf? Cause like seriously, like, look at Eren. Look at him, his face, his beard, and then look at the dwarves, or look at any kind of like maybe not stereotypical design for a dwarf. He kind of looks like a dwarf, doesn't he? At least in the head, like his head kind of looks like a dwarf's. It was a random thought. Is he secretly like, is it like half dwarf? That's probably possible, being half dwarf. That'd be cool actually if he was half dwarf. Dwarves are pretty cool. But anyways, where are we here? Well, hold on. I have, as I said, I have a lot of spots. Okay. So after I ask that question, the next scene follows with him being like, "Yo," with Iris actually being like, "Yo, Aaron, what are your thoughts on Will?" And Aaron's like, "It is what it is." And then he tells Iris to have Finn take custody essentially of Will, because Headmistress Cauldron has done too much. It's clear that they're at odds, and I'm really curious to know more about what's going on between the Maggie Vander, or at least between Aaron and Headmistress Cauldron. I'm really curious to know more about that. But Iris, she has an interesting interaction with Finn, but we'll cover that in a little bit, because there's one more thing that we gotta talk about first. Because Aaron summons all the other Maggie Vander. They show up, except for Elfie, of course, and they start talking about what happened. What do they know? And quite frankly, they know nothing. They just straight up know nothing. Like Aaron is like, nothing. To another question, he's like, nothing. But then finally, someone's like, you gotta have some kind of idea, bro. You're the king, apparently. And he's like, this feels like the great battle of 10 years ago. It felt the same as those destroyers who once shook the magical world. Whatever the fuck that means. Because, like, we have no context as to what actually happened 10 years ago, I don't think. Beyond what they just spoken. But then, the fire guy, don't remember his name, he says, the day of near doom. Do you think there are survivors? And doesn't know still, but like, it's something to keep in mind. And then, the elf queen lady, whose name I don't actually remember if I ever wrote it down ever, but she's like, are we sure? Because we look at all the losses we had when we did that 10 years ago to be rid of them. But then Thorzeus, the lightning guy, he's like, yeah, but you weren't even there, so that makes sense. But then they essentially start fighting. They bicker like children, and it's just really funny, honestly. But then Aaron, before they can go further, Aaron's just like, yo, stop and sit the fuck down. And so that happens. Then they also complain about how Elfaria is not there. And moving on to the next one more page. Actually, not one more page. One more thing I want to talk about on this page. Something we learned about Rosti is that he transferred from Teralis. Teralis. Sure. The Western capital. Wherever that is. Anyways, moving on from that. Because I'm not going to harp on Rosti stuff right now. But moving on to that, we see Finn being like, yo, watching over everything. He's amazed at how they're already, with the dwarves, they're already like back in tip-top shape almost. They're working on rebuilding. He walks inside, and then Iris calls him Inves. But then Finn's like, hey, I don't like being called that. But then she says it fits him perfectly because she despises him. And I don't know what's going on between Finn and Iris. I don't know, actually. I doubt it's like an ex, like, boyfriend or girlfriend thing. Because the animosity she has for him is clearly very deep. And I don't know what it is. But then, she's like, yo, don't interfere with Will. Because if Finn gets involved, the clock hands will advance. And then, if that happens, there will be no stopping that person any longer. I don't know who that person is anymore. They're being very vague about that for a reason. I don't think that that person is like Aaron or the headmistress. I don't think. But, so it's a third party. But I don't know. But what I do know is we move on to graduation after that. But first, I gotta take a sip of my coffee. By the way, if you want to get this mug, I believe it's still on my merch shop. You can check it out somewhere on the channel. I don't remember where I put it exactly, but you can check it out there if you want to get a mug with my face on it and a bunch of other merch that I have. I think it's really cool. Anyways, I did not just get coffee just to do that bit. I'm genuinely just drinking coffee, but free promo. Anyways, before we move on to graduation, there's one more thing. I was worried again about how Will was going to lose his memories of Rusty, but he didn't. And so, I already mentioned this earlier when I was talking about the memories thing, but again, I want to reiterate, what the fuck did she edit of his memories? Because like he remembers that his hair was different, that he had those powers, but that doesn't tell me anything else. He hasn't forgotten Elfaria, obviously, probably, but he also hasn't forgotten Rusty, unless he just he thinks that he just moved away and didn't die, which I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the case. I don't like that. But anyways, we're gonna move on to graduation now because it's time for graduation. And what happens is everyone graduates, yes, but Tower Ascending is different. So everyone graduates, of course, which happy for them. But then we talk about Tower Ascension. And Tower Ascension, everyone, at least the 49 people, including ours, ascend the tower. But then Will almost doesn't, apparently. But then it's like, but then Cauldron, purely for dramatic effect, I think she's like, and in the last moment, one more person is being ascending, because there are 2 requirements to ascend to the tower. First requirement, achieve over, I think it's 7,200 points, or I think it's 7,200 points, maybe a little more, but at least that many points. And then also create an original spell. And here is where I actually kind of broke. Because apparently Will made the spell of courage, because it wiped out the despair in everyone's hearts. And that was enough for him to ascend to the tower. And for once, I actually agree with Ed with the, you can't be serious, bro. Like, come on. Like, heck, like, I get it. For plot reasons, it makes sense. But it's an ass pull, straight up. That has to be an ass pull. It has to be purely for plot reasons. Because that's not an actual spell. If that's a spell, technically, then anything could be a spell if it does something like that. Someone giving a speech that, like, rate uplifts people could be a spell then, if we're throwing away the idea of what a spell actually is. That's I don't like that. I just genuinely do not like that at all. Like, I get it, again, for plot reasons, I get it. And I mean, I guess, like, yeah, he did a lot, but they could have just used what he actually did as a spell, like the Whist, or whatever the fuck you called it. He could have just used that as a spell. That's all I'm gonna say on that matter. I'm not gonna harp on it, but I can't blame. But you can't even blame Ed when he is like, what the fuck? Because he basically doesn't want Will to get crushed. But what he specifically says is, how can you tease a sweet dream only to shove him into a pit of despair? And Workner is like, come on, Ed, you have enough. Calm down. But then Ed's like, why would he suffer a same fate as me? And damn, that hits hard, bro. As I've mentioned, I never hated Ed, because I always knew deep down that there was more to it than just him hating Will. He just doesn't want Will to experience the same thing that he did. And that's valid. That's honestly valid, man. But then, with that, Workner calls Ed a very scary but very kind teacher. And like I mentioned this in the reaction, but if anyone would know this much information about Ed, it would be Workner, because they've worked together for so long, and they're actual friends too, because they started out as students and all that. Like, yeah. And then of course we get to see a scene at the very end of Rusty somehow alive still, and I don't know if he's a clone at this point. Until it's, as I will say this because it's at the end here. No one's watching this. If you are, comment ice cold. Sure. If you're still here, comment ice cold, and then whatever else you're gonna say in the comments. I wasn't gonna say this, but I'll say it here since we're at the end. I don't know if Rusty is a clone. I won't consider him a clone until it's told to us directly, not implied, not coincidentally, but directly told to us that he is a clone. And the reason is incredibly simple. And I'll say, I said this on Patreon. I said this in a clip on Patreon as well. And I'll say it again here. Rusty sacrificed himself for Will, not Alfaria. Rusty died for Will, not Alfaria. Will cried for Rusty, not Alfaria. Rusty spent time with Will, not Alfaria. And you can't exactly blame Alfaria. Obviously, you can't completely blame her for not being able to spend time with Will. But people, because the thing is also, as far as Will knows, Rusty's his own person. Rusty is dead or died or disappeared or something. Rusty is the one that Will got to know, not Alfaria. Like, yeah, Will still has Alfaria on his mind. I don't care about that. What I do care about, really, is when people not compare him to, but like dumb him down to just a clone of Alfaria, and like that's all they see in him now is a clone. Because again, just because if he is a clone, keyword here, if he is a clone, that doesn't change everything that Will did with him, or that he did for Will. And also, I will reiterate this again because some people are kind of stupid if they aren't at least considering this fact. Rusty bled. I can't imagine that Alfaria would make a clone that would bleed. Because how would you make the blood look like blood, flow like blood, if he's completely made out of ice? He bled. As far as I'm concerned, until it's told otherwise, he's his own person. He bled. He bled for Will, which is good enough for me that he's his own person. So I'm gonna leave that here. But with that said, I am gonna wrap it up here because I think we've talked long enough. And I am curious to know what your thoughts are in the comments down below because, again, this was a fun episode, and I enjoyed it a lot. I did honestly enjoy it, and I'm very curious to see where this episode goes. Because, like, I don't actually know how this goes. Because I probably mentioned this before, but I have read the manga to an extent. I got pretty far, like chapter 30 or 40, I think. But I don't remember much. I remember certain things that do happen. I didn't remember the Rusty stuff, but I remember the Workner situation. At least I remember him dying. But I didn't remember anything else after that. I don't remember him coming back to life. But I do remember the Workner dying part. Supposedly dying, I guess. But, yeah. I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm very excited for this. If you are as well, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. Hide the video and YouTube will helps me out a lot. And I will say this. I don't know about if I'm going to stream the Crunchyroll Awards, the anime awards, this year. I'm going to try to. But I cannot make any guarantees that it'll work. Because I've never streamed on my phone before like that. So that'll be a fun experiment. But anyways, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up here. Again, Patreon down below for the free full-length reaction. And yeah, until next time, my name is Mark. Never stop being yourself. Stay safe out there, and I will see all you incredible people in the next video.